Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 17th of February 2014. So in today's news we have quite a few things and they're all pretty good. So we now know that patch 5.4.7 is going to be coming out this week. Then some things about Season 15, and I'll round off the show with a bunch of interesting tweets from the likes of Watcher, Helinka, Chris Robertson and Celestian. Now, patch 5.4.7, this is going to be arriving this week on Reset Day. And in terms of game additions, it's really not that giant, honestly. It's going to mark the end of Season 14 and the Scroll of Resurrection system. Then it will of course add the level 90 boost and the Warlords of Draenor Collector's Edition mount and pet to the game client. However, we of course do not know when these are going to be available to players. That's the sort of thing that they need to stick into the client for when they do need it, but until then, we are not going to see anything of that kind of thing. They've also done some tuning to the Heroic Garrosh 10 encounter. Basically, they've made it slightly easier by reducing his HP by 5% on all phases, the HP of the minions of Y'Shaarj by 10%, and then by increasing the clump size required to trigger an Iron Star on the final phase from 3 to 4. These changes were made to keep the fights difficulty consistent with the slightly easier 25-person version of the raid. The current 25-player version of the raid is the intended difficulty level. Basically, they didn't get the balancing right. It's interesting though, on tier 16 for the Siege of Orgrimmar, there have been a number of fights which have been definitely significantly harder on 10-player than they have been on 25, and that's actually been the cause of a number of targeted nerfs over the past few weeks. So it's interesting, but it definitely seems like this is probably one of the latter changes that they're going to need to make before I'd say they make an overall nerf to Siege of Orgrimmar just to get people through it. That overall nerf will probably happen with the Warlords of Draenor systems patch though, so it won't be for a while. Then they also made a change to the gear sold by Mistweaver I. It used to be item level 476, but now it's been upgraded to 489, and this change is also retrospective to any previously purchased gear. Now this is actually kind of cool, because this gear, honestly, it was item level 476, which meant that I just didn't think it was worth the time this coins. It seemed a little bit pointless to me. So I think with this upgrade to 489, it should be useful when you're trying to fill in, say, trinket slots or whatever for your alts. So overall, I think that is a very nice change. And an interesting thing is that this gear is now actually going to be of a higher item level than the gear that you get with your level 90 that's boosted. Of course, as we know, the boosted level 90 will come with 483 gear, so of course these 483 greens would have been weaker than some of the Timeless Isle stuff that this NPC sold. So by increasing it to 489, they make the purchase gear a little bit better, which of course makes complete sense. Now, let's talk about Season 15. So Season 15 is going to start a week after Season 14 ends, and the Season 15 gear item level is 550. They've also increased the base resilience up to 77%, which is an increase of 5% up from 72%. They have then also just retuned the diminishing returns curve for resilience to make it just as value per point as it used to be previously. Battle fatigue now will reduce healing received by 60%, up from 55%, and the PvP trinket set bonus now gives 5,280 resilience, up from 2,600, which does make it quite a bit more viable. Then the new season's gear is basically just a color swap from Horde to Alliance, so if you are, the Season 15 Horde gear is going to look visually the same as the Season 14 Alliance. The reason why this happened is because they wanted to make a new PvP season just to give PvP players some basic gameplay for the next few months. It's not like in raiding where I guess maybe a lot of people have already just sort of, that this is people that are still, I guess, progressing. Whereas with Season 14 on PvP, usually a season works out well at around 20 weeks. So by making it longer and longer and longer, the seasons just end up being very garbled and not really a great deal of fun. I think the final PvP season of Cataclysm was a prime example of one that just went on for too damn long. So instead of having a 40-week long season, they just decided to split it up into two, and that does make a good bit of sense. So, dampening is also going to start in 2 versus 2 matches at 5 minutes. Dampening is that effect where the amount of healing received just slightly decreases over time. And the thing is that in 2v2, when it is a healer and DPS matchup, a dual healer DPS matchup, honestly, those fights can last a very long time because of healer mana and the fact that the healers just don't run out of the damn stuff, and it's very hard to burst down a healer as a DPS when there's only 2 targets there. So I think this is actually a very good change for 2 versus 2. It means that you're not going to have these annoying 15-minute long stalemates. That said, sometimes a 10-minute long match can be quite fun when things get close, but I guess that just wasn't overall fitting with the gameplay that they wanted. There is no change for 3 versus 3 and 5 versus 5 though. They also have buffed the NPCs in Alterac Valley. That's fair enough. They were honestly horrendously weak, so it's nice they're buffed. Though at some point I would like them to really properly buff up everything in AV, make it last just a little bit longer, and do a few different things like that, so that it actually feels like a proper battle instead of a Zerg. It really now just is a Zerg, when back in the day it used to be a pretty cool strategic thing. So it's kind of sad that that's happened. Of course, I wouldn't really want to return to the 6 to 12 hour long AV games though, because that just doesn't really fit in with... well, I mean, it's nice in with, you know, rose-tinted glasses, but I think as a realistic thing to happen, it's probably not so good. 6 hours is a long time to spend in that valley. Then finally, they said that you can no longer get honor for killing the Karasang Wilds, like rare NPCs, multiple times per day. So you can kill each one of them once and get the honor, but any additional times will not get you anything, or at least any honor. Now, the reason they've done that is because people were just using the cross-realm zone feature to jump from zone to zone, or not zone, realm to realm to realm, to just keep on farming these guys, and you could actually buy a full set of the previous PvP tier gear in one day. It was rather crazy, so it's definitely a good thing that that's been patched up. It does, of course, mean that it's a little bit harder to get honor now. Personally, I just recommend doing Tulbarad and Wintergrasp every single day when you can, because it's basically like 2,000 honor a go for free, and it's really damn easy. That's especially poignant if you're on one of those battle groups where your faction just doesn't win. Like a good example, I'm Alliance on, I think it's the Cyclone battle group, and really, Alliance lose about 60% of the time, which is a complete pain in the arse when you're trying to farm up honor. Anyway, so that is it for the news, pretty much. Let's move on to some tweets. So the first one is from Watcher, and he said that Proving Grounds are going to be serving a different purpose in Warlords of Draenor, and that they think of challenge modes as a PvE analog to arena seasons. It's also worth noting that the current crop of challenge modes are going to be unavailable as soon as the Warlords of Draenor pre-patch comes out. So basically get going now, because you probably only have about 20 weeks to get that title, the transmog sets, and then the mount, all 3 of which are pretty damn cool, especially the mount and some of those transmog sets. I really do think they're nice, and they're going to be basically gone from the game in 20 weeks, so you really do need to get on top of that. And it's interesting, this idea of challenge modes being essentially an expansion-long arena season in a way. I like that idea. Perhaps they could maybe just add new challenge modes from time to time and really ramp up that idea of them being a PvE analog to an arena season. That would give a little bit more gameplay to challenge mode people, because honestly, challenge modes have just been the same for all of the expansion, right? So maybe they could have added some things there that would have actually got people into challenge modes. I think at the minute there's just a very limited group of people that actually enjoy them just because of their time trial elements and things like that. But maybe if Blizzard were adding new content and just trying to push people towards them in some sort of nice way, then it could have panned out a bit better. Of course, we didn't get any new dungeons throughout the expansion, so there really wasn't too much of an opportunity to do that. Of course, that's going to be fixed in Warlords, because they will be adding mid-expansion dungeons, or at least I think they've said so. Anyway, so next, Helinka said that at some point in the future they're going to be adding a penalty, like a penalty delay for people who leave arenas early, so that if they want to re-queue, they'll have to wait a bit. Basically a deserter debuff. I think that actually does make sense, because it's a little bit annoying if you wait a minute or two to get into an arena, and then someone leaves, the match is over, and you haven't got to play a match. Okay, maybe you get some free conquest, but I don't think that's really for the spirit of PvP. So it's definitely a good thing that's happening, although it will be in Warlords of Draenor. Next, we also got a tweet from Chris Robertson, who said that we're going to be getting an Arakoa Artcraft blog at some point soon, and that they're currently working on the winged models for that species. Of course, the Arakoa that we've seen in Outland are kind of all twisted and I don't know, magic the hell up. They can't fly anymore. Well, the ones that we're going to see in Draenor are completely, like, uncorrupted, and they're not all twisted and terrible. They can fly, so they should be a lot cooler, or at least, well, a lot healthier, I guess, than what we're used to, which, in my opinion, will be quite cool, because I think they were a very interesting race, and perhaps they, I don't know, could maybe some more have been done with them? I just feel like there was a missed opportunity there. Perhaps there could have been an Arako raid or something like that could have delved in a little bit more to their lore. Anyway, if you do like that race, you're going to be getting your fix of it in Warlords, because we have the Spires of Iraq, which is an entire zone dedicated to the guys. Then next, and finally for the tweets, Celestian said that hit and expertise will be converted into crit, haste, and mastery. I'm not too sure on the exact rates, but essentially that is about it. And really that's it for the show. Basically, on a day like this, when all we get is perhaps some new patch notes, there just isn't a great deal to talk about, because the patch notes are all facts. It's hard to debate or discuss around facts, really, you just need to say them. Anyway, so that's really it. Thank you very much for watching. You can support the channel over on Patreon, like, subscribe, all that good shit over here. And yeah, I'll see you next time.